All right, first of all, I want to thank y'all for coming and meeting with today about discipline, something that we've had some issues with and we need to work on. So right now, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we relay the information to the other teachers when it comes down to getting to the end of the school year and we're trying to figure out what we're going to make changes on for next year. We need to have something that we can present to the administration to say, well, these are the concerns that we have, these things we saw that didn't work, or things that we think might work. So when we start to reevaluate the discipline like we did this year, we already have some stuff concrete that we want to work on. So first, I just want to give you a small agenda, the stuff that we're going to talk about. And this is also the student policy for the merits, just so we can look over it. I know everybody has their own opinions about things that we might need to change. So we can go over those things as well. As you see, first we're going to talk about the tier offenses. First thing I want to bring up, and it's the first thing on the tier 1 offense, is the unexcused tardies to class. Right now, that's considered to be a clipboard signage. Me personally, I feel like it should be a little bit stiffer than a clipboard signage, because what you're saying is this student came to class, did not have any type of excuse for being late to class, and has no documentation on why they're late to class. So where were you in the time that you were gone? And I've had some instances where a kid comes 20 minutes after class has started and said he was in the bathroom. Well, how do I know you were in the bathroom? What were you doing during that time? You didn't come ask me before we switched classes, could you go to the bathroom, and you decided just to go straight to the bathroom. How do I know that? So to me, that's a serious offense. To me, that's skipping class and hanging out and doing whatever you want to do until that time. So I feel like it should be brought down to at least a 2 demerit or, well, yeah, 2 demerit situation, maybe even 4. Well, I know in the public school system, after 2 or 3 of those unexcused tardies, you do get an office referral. So if it's something as far as 2 demerits, or we make it a 2 demerit thing, and after the second one, that will be 4 demerits. So that way, they will be able to receive an office referral if they do it more than once. So that was a big one that I saw out of those.
What about the situations when they come by, put their books down, and say, I'm going to the bathroom, and then they're 20 minutes before they get into class?
And that's something that's another issue. Even when they're in class, in the middle of the class, they leave out, and it's 20 minutes. It's kind of a gray area because you don't know if they have any type of medical problems, unless that's been expressed to you already, where they have issues with the restroom. And that's something that you might have to send an email to the parent. Your son left class, he was gone for 20 minutes in the bathroom. This is not the first time this has occurred. I just want to see if there's any type of issue that we don't know about that he might have. And we want to also make you aware of it so that you can address it and figure out why is it that you're not showing up. Why is it taking you so long to go to the restroom? So that's yeah, like you said, I've been struggling with that one too with a couple of students where they go and they're gone for it forever. To the point where now I really don't let them go to the restroom. Unless I take them everybody at the same time. I see Ms. Pitts doing that a lot, and that's pretty much where I got it from, is I just take everybody at one time. If you can't go now, I'm sorry. You're going to have to sit here for the rest of the class. And it's a long class period, so I try to do it like midway in between classes. Just to take them to the restroom and let them release. Any other things in the tier 1 and tier 2 that you see that might need to change?
Well, having heard that our dress code policy is going to change,
Right.
then that's going to make a difference with the dress code violation.
I think we need to clarify what classroom disruption is, so that the kids know what we consider classroom disruption, because in class, you can redirect a student to get them back on pace, but then they're defensive saying, well, this is what happened, this is my excuse, trying to get out of, you know, being redirected or getting onto. So I think we need to be more, we need to clarify what disruption is. You know, is a disruption being, you know, goofy, off task, talking to your neighbor without permission, you know, having, talking out of turn? What exactly is that?
That is true. And if we could just come up with a description for that.
And the inappropriate items too,
Yeah.
because we have something about, certain types of materials in tier 3. So if we know what inappropriate items you're talking about, or we're talking about in tier 1, that could take some clarification. Also, we have not following instructions. That can be construed as class disruption, because that, if you start correcting somebody, then it quickly can turn into a class disruption. So, you know, there's some things that look like they're kind of in bows, but, you know, how much is 2 demerits for not following instructions? Is that the first time or second time, or, because sometimes when a student doesn't follow instructions, I just give a warning the first time, rather than, you know, say, I'm gonna give them 2 demerits. It would have to be something extreme for 2 demerits.
Yeah. Not following instruction would definitely have to be something that, you warn them at least once before you.
Yeah, and even up in our policy, we have it stated where it says, Tier 1 offenses are addressed first with a verbal warning that requires the student to sign off on the discipline clipboard. Okay, but we, as a team, have been saying that we need to give them at least 2 to 3 warnings. But our policy states after 1 warning, we consider that in the handbook flat out rebellion. So we're gonna send you to the clipboard. I think we need to make it consistent throughout too. You know, as far as, like you said, you're supposed to, you know, give them at least 1 warning. But we have been giving them 2 and 3 and 4 warnings.
But sometimes I think that happens because we know that we're trying not to go there because it's gonna create that classroom disruption.
Yes, picking
And-
your
and-
battles.
So if we were consistent about doing it the time we say it would, in the long run, it would pay off. But we just have to get there. And you know, we talked about this at our other meeting,
Yeah.
that,
And I think another way to
the
change
outcome
that,
at the end.
I think another way to change that is to change the wording for
Mm-hmm.
not following instructions and just make it insubordination. And
Which is the stronger.
It's stronger. It's stronger, and they don't know what it means. But then when you explain it to them, you know, it's basically not following instructions. You're not doing what you were told to do.
I actually like that.
It's basically saying you're defiant to what I said, because I've given you a warning on it, and now you continue to do what I told you not to do.
I kind of feel like the clipboard's almost become a joke
Right.
to
It
them
has
a little
been.
bit, because if you go back and you look at some of the things they write on there, it's such as today I had a student sign it, and he actually did something, and when he went out here and signed it, he wrote nothing beside it. And that was not the case at all of why he had to sign a clipboard.
And that's another thing. My suggestion would be that we don't even let them sign it. That they, you know, we inform them, you're gonna have to sign. We're gonna sign the clipboard for you. Your name is going on the clipboard. Instead of saying sign the clipboard, your name is going on the clipboard for. we'll
Yeah,
put
each
down
teacher
what you
have
said.
their own piece of
And
paper
have
and
the
just-
sheet. And then a general person like myself, for middle school, after the week is up, when our time period is up that Thursday, then we just put them all together, and then put them on one master, and that way we have it recorded.
That would actually work.
Because a lot of times the kids, you know it, you have to come and check to make sure that they sign. And it shouldn't be like that.
You and I both had to do that.
Yeah.
This weekend, last week.
So, and, just to eliminate that, we just have them in each room. then at the end, just bring them all to me, and then we'll just put it all together.
What is the not prepared for class? The only question I have with that is, today I had a student who didn't have paper in class, and when I asked them where the paper was, they said their mother would not buy them any more notebook paper because it was almost the end of the school year. So how do you handle that? I mean, it's not directly the kids, it's not really the kids' fault, but I mean, they're not prepared for class.
Do you know that for sure? then?
Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but
It's still hard.
it's hard to
Well,
determine.
This is what I do in that situation. Because they're saying it in front of all the other students, I'll just say, well, I'll turn it to a lesson. Well, if you know you weren't gonna have paper, you have friends right next to you. Y'all borrow food, y'all get food off each other's plate, things of that nature. Now, why can't you just give them a piece of paper?
Yeah, that's
You
what
borrow
I do
paper
too.
for 'em. That's all you gotta do. Just borrow paper. And if it continues down that the next time, and they still say the same thing, well, I've already told you what you need to do.
Right.
Okay? There's no problem borrowing paper. Now I can make you sign. Good.
I would probably email the parent.
Right.
And the reason being is we got another whole month.
Right.
That's a long time to go without paper.
And I
Yep.
seriously do not see that.
Well,
I mean, I guess just, you know,
Yeah. I see, but
'Cause
in
I've
the
emailed
moment,
plenty of times about
you
pencils.
Yes.
can't just say, well, go sign a clipboard.
you're right.
But, yeah, I see what you're saying. And then, like she said, if you email a parent and you find out that it's not true,
Right. Then that's a different
now
story.
you got,
And I don't say, you know, you need to buy paper. I say, your son or daughter said
Right.
that they didn't have paper, and, could you please, you know, so.
Right.
I know that we've been talking about tier 1 and tier 2, but can I ask a question about tier 3?
yeah, we're going down in
Did teacher disrespect? This is probably the mamas of all mamas in my class, especially with the teenage boys, because they're coming into their manhood. This teacher disrespect, maybe I, as a teacher, have not been coming forth and telling them exactly. I mean, you're liable for automatically for demerits and automatically for referrals, but they don't seem to understand what teacher disrespect is. You can sit here and say, you're disrespecting me, and they will literally look at you, first of all, you know, like they have no clue as to what you're talking about. Secondly, they will argue with you. We need to, at the front, at the beginning of school, I know Tarver, her school did this. At the first day of school, and you've heard her, I think, where the principal sat down and just went line by line, precept upon precept about what this handbook is all about, and made sure they understood it. If they had any questions, ask now. But we have students who don't really understand teacher disrespect. And they don't understand how weighty that offense is. And that's a big issue.
Yeah, and they have to understand that disrespect is in the eye of the beholder. So something that you might say to her she might not take it as disrespect, but you may. So that's why they have to understand. They have to be careful about what they say to teachers, and understand that they're adults. And if I feel disrespected, I can give you for demerits. If you argue with me, that's even worse.
Yes.
Okay, that's even worse. So you need to understand, and it takes one to get those 4 demerits and realize, okay, I just got a half a day ISS because I said something to Ms. Pitts that she didn't like. Better not talk to Ms. Pitts like that. She's gonna give you half a day ISS because that's an automatic half a day before demerits.
And it's not even, I mean, not to even take it personally, but just on there is a fine line. There is that fine line of being able to express yourself, and this is something that I have tried to convey to them. You know, you can go up to a teacher, and if you have questions, ask them. You can approach them respectfully.
Right.
But there have been quite a few instances in the last month or so where that has not been followed. They have not even taken notice to that, and that really bothers me as a teacher because they're not understanding respect toward authority.
Right.
And that's an issue for them when they get older. I'm thinking when they get into high school, college, job out in the real world, when they have bosses, what are they gonna
What are
do?
they gonna do? Yep, they don't understand it. Some do, and then some don't, but that's something that we do have to
Some
address.
say they don't, but
And
really
that's something
do.
that you say, that's something that you say in front of the, like you said, at the beginning of the year, in front of the parents and the student. Both of y'all are right here. These are things that that's disrespectful. And just give examples. Just give examples, and hopefully they'll understand it. It doesn't matter how many times you tell them, most of these kids, they're still gonna go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
So they just have to suffer consequences, and that's catching those demerits, and then having to suffer,
I think that we should have, a larger, like this year, we actually had this posted in the hall for a while on the bulletin board. And I think we need a larger one, poster size, posted in both hallways.
Baker, I agree with you on that.
That's true, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we forget the little nuances of it.
Yeah.
I almost feel like too, like in public school, they have this listed, and at the bottom of the agenda, the student has to sign it
Yeah.
and turn it back in, and it's almost like a contract for the students, and I almost feel like if they had to be held accountable and sign it and know that they read over and they signed it,
Well, the parents have to sign it, but the kids.
well, the
don't.
parents and the kids both have to sign it. And
I
both of
mean,
them.
here, the parents.
But I think
sign
if
it.
you made the older kids sign it and they say, well, I didn't read it, well, that's not,
You
that's
can
not
pull it
my
up.
fault,
I have
that
a copy in my file.
Yeah.
And here's where you
Yeah.
said you were gonna do this.
yeah.
Yep. So behavior contracts, and that was something I was gonna talk about in a few minutes, as far as these kids, once they start accumulating a certain amount of demerits, there needs to be a behavior contract, put on them to assure, some kids will take it seriously, some of them won't. But it will help. Anything else in the tiers that we need to look at?
Are we going into some of the other ones?
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
okay, the use of electronic devices. Now, what I would like to get clarification on is this. When the students are first coming in the mornings, like even up to the time that homeroom is finished, and at the end of the day, I would not have a problem in my classroom with them using them as long as it wasn't actually class time. You understand what I mean? Like if they wanted to, use them in the mornings until homeroom was over, that's kind of like their time in a way. And they don't have a lot of time anyway. So, I don't know if it'd be too hard to like say, okay, right now is when you turn them off and put them up. But it doesn't bother me for them to do it then, it's just to know that they are pretending to be doing something and, they're not. So, and we're not uniform on that.
No.
And there are several things, it's like with the eating in class, we're not uniform on that. Some teachers allow it, some teachers don't. And then when they come from one class where they're allowed to and go into a class where they're not allowed to, they get angry, and that's understandable because it's not consistent through all the teachers.
Right. And I agree with that, especially with the phones
Because they got them, it's not like they're not
Well,
gonna have them
my
somewhere.
understanding of it was the phone was supposed to be placed in the locker once they got here and not taken back out until school was dismissed. That was my understanding of how it was supposed to be.
That was the beginning of the year, that's how it was
But
supposed to
it
be.
doesn't say.
But
No, I know, I
it doesn't
understand.
say, and it hasn't been, like you said, it hasn't been enforced.
Now, if I give the students free time, I do allow them to get on, because it's their time, they have free time at the end of class, and I do allow them to get on it, but I don't allow them during class time I don't even wanna see it. Or it becomes mine.
I agree with you as far as homeroom,
Right,
and I think
it's like
that,
one of those fights that, if you can allow them a little freedom with something, a lot of times you'll have less problems
doing
with
something
the other
else.
part.
Right.
Yep. And I think the solution to that is after that homeroom bell is rung, it's time for first period. That bell to leave for first period, automatically everything gotta go in your locker. Phones, all electronic devices have to go in your locker from that point on. And even in homeroom, if you have a situation where you're dealing with something, they have they're saying the Star Spangled Banner prayers going on, and you seeing what the device is still using them during those times, they need to be disciplined for it. So they got to know when to use them, even in homeroom. But after the bell's rung, then you have to put it in if you get caught in class with it, just on your person, I think you should be punished.
I've kind of inclined to think that if we did get, you know, everything okay to do, actually write the clipboards ourselves, which I like that idea, that we would have the separate offenses so that you have it all there.
Mhm.
If you have something that happens with a personal electronic device, you know, that's tier 2, you've got a place to write your tier 2 down, 3, 4, because you have to make sure that sometimes you get busy and you don't record something. Well, as soon as you do that, you let that one thing slip by you, then even though you're not meaning to, that reinforces that bad behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they know they've gotten away
They
with
got away
it.
with
And not just that, but we need to remember to tell them that they've gotten it and they actually see us do something to record it. Because that, you know, shows that we mean business.
I agree. So that's something that we can put down as an issue that we see and that we can resolve. So recording, as far as the clipboard, revamping the clipboard so we can put those offenses on there. And that way, like you said, if you forget, at the end of the day, instead of trying to go ahead and input that 2 demerits right then, you don't have the time to. You have it written down on that section of the clipboard. You know, at the end of the day, I can go ahead and put that in.
And then you can have a place where we can hopefully make it, where we can put a notation of what they did. Because when you start thinking back to something, you're like, you know, what exactly happened?
All right, so I think tier 4 is pretty good as far as the information that happened and bullying and lying, stealing, excessive show of affection. And see, that's a lot of kids could have received 8 demerits just from lying on the clipboard.
Yeah, they don't realize that.
Right.
Well, I think you've almost got bullying, but up here in tier 2, you have student disrespect, belittling, teasing, or verbally abusing another student. Well, that's the
That's
same
bullying.
thing. I mean, that's the same thing. So which is it?
Yeah.
Well, what you would say is that's like the stuff we need to look at as far as taking out. If we're gonna take it out
Mhm.
or reword it to where it's not the same thing, because that is the same thing. Student
Right, and if
disrespect.
it's true bullying, it needs to be tier 3.
Yeah, so that shouldn't even be in tier 2 at all.
Sometimes it takes a little while to find out whether that teasing is something that the kid minds or doesn't mind. You know, sometimes they may act like it just because they don't want to rock the boat or something.
Yeah.
And you might have to take them aside and then make the decision about whether you want to go with the 4 demerits.
All right, so that, I think we're good as far as tier offenses. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and this will be the last thing for the sake of time, is we have some gaps as far as discipline with the demerits. You'll go from 4 demerits to have a half a day, and then you skip all the way to 8 demerits before you have any type of other discipline. And to me, I just feel like every 2 demerits you get, you should be suffering some type of consequence for it. So, and Ms. Tarver brought it up earlier today, and I had already put it down in here, but Saturday work details, if that's something that's possible to be done, Saturday work detail is something that kids do not like to do. They don't want to spend their Saturday at school. They have to spend 4 hours on a Saturday at school cleaning up. And that'll also get stuff done that we need to get done around the school.
You know, it's easier for us as teachers in a public school, I mean, not public school, but private school, to get things like that. I mean, I know in public school when kids ride the buses home a lot, we actually even required after school in-school suspension instead of during the day,
Yeah.
or, you know, in addition to, depending on what it was. And somehow they managed that, so with a lot of the parents picking up their kids here, there's no reason why we couldn't require them to stay, you know,
Have school
like,
attention.
for example, if you wanted to fit in an in-between, instead of half a day, there could be an hour after school
Right.
as an in-between one. And,
That's another good one.
make them
After
do
school
extra
suspension.
classwork or something. And Saturday.
Well, I don't even think, even if a child rides a bus, I mean, this is a deterrent for the parents to realize and let their kids know. Look, I have to come out of my way to come and pick you up when you should be riding the bus because you did what you weren't supposed to do.
Right, right.
So I don't see a problem with after school.
After school, and then on Saturdays, I gotta get up on Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, to take you,
Mhm.
so you can spend 4 hours doing some work out in the sun.
Or helping Miss D in the afternoons after
Exactly.
school
Right.
cleanup.
And that was another thing, as far as when we're having them sign the clipboard, having attachments to those one signatures, and sometimes, you know, we get to that third signature, stuff like making those kids do that, the lunch duties at the end of the, after lunch
We
cleanup.
used to do that too.
Instead of making a class do it,
I like that.
2 or 3 kids that are in trouble that week for doing something, you're in charge of cleanup.
Right.
So we could also attach that to the clipboard sign. You gotta, cause like you saying earlier, it's a joke to them. Yeah, I signed my name on it. I had a student right at the end of the day say, "Oh, I'll go sign it," cause she knew she was in trouble. So she said, "Oh, I'll go sign it." Oh yeah, that cause you don't mind signing the clipboard. So that's why you're willing to sign it. So those, you know, you have to attach something. Every time they sign it, they need to feel the consequences of signing it. So if we can all brainstorm on different ways of doing that and just come together another time and have a list of those things, a little minor consequences that they'll have to do. And I know Ms. G has an issue with out-of-school suspension. I personally don't have an issue with it because I think that's, like you just said with the parents, look, I gotta take a day off of work because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and I can't leave you at home by yourself.
I think what Ms. G's looking at is kids tend to get more trouble when they do that because unfortunately, even though it's a private school, we do have some parents who,
Yeah.
oh, well, you know, I mean, and they're just, and
Or
there's
they
no,
leave the kids at
yeah,
home
there's
by
no
themselves.
discipline on the parent side as far as that goes. So I do understand where she's coming from, but I do understand where you're coming from too. I think if you take away out-of-school suspension, I think kids will really see it as, well, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm
Yeah, but
not.
that Saturday thing will get that in a hurry.
Right.
So you gotta make sure that they feel threatened, like they're scared.
Right.
Right now, they're not scared.
Right. They were at the beginning of the year, but you
Yeah.
can definitely tell a change
Because
over
things-
when.
Things aren't be a real force. Or I
Right.
know I did this. Oh man, I got 20-something demerits, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
Well, you could actually, you know, do like they do with community service hours. Certain offense has so many hours.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, you know, like tier 1 is 1 hour, tier 2, you know, each, whatever offense. And the 1 hour or the half hour even, like, or the cleanup. You know, it's like, gives you a better opportunity to have a consequence for every action
Right. Right.
that's kind of balances with what they did.
So those are things we want to try to make it where out of school suspension, if she doesn't feel comfortable with it, at the same time, keep it, but make it maybe further down the line when it comes to
Maybe
having
make that the last
straw.
resort
The
on
last
just
straw.
let
You
them
get up
do
to 20 demerits, now we suspend you for a day.
it. Right.
You know, now, you know, 4 more demerits it's over with. You know, I'm gonna have to move on, so. And parent conferences need to go on more in that time. When they start getting past 8 demerits,
Oh, yeah.
more parent conferences, so once they hit 12, we have another parent conference, you know, and more days of ISS as well. Instead of that 1 day, after they serve that 1 day, if they get in trouble again and they accumulate more demerits, then it's 3 days. You get to that 3rd day, the 3-day full day ISS, then you need to have a parent conference because, of course, the kids will go home complaining. And the parents want to know exactly why they got 3 full days ISS. So let's break, before they can even get to that point where they're mad about it, we have the parent conference and let them know this is what's going to be the result of what he or she has been doing.
And then at some point in time, you know, we kind of said it like, When you get 2, it's between the teacher and the student. When you get 4, it's between the student, the teacher, and the parent. When you get up to 8, it's the student, the teacher, the parent, and the administrator.
Right.
So that the seriousness, you know,
Is ever evolving.
right, exactly. There's a time when you need that administrator in there too,
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
so that everybody there knows the seriousness of it.
Yes, most definitely. All right,
But
so-
what's wrong with having like, almost like a form, if there's a serious offense, the teacher writes up what the serious offense was and allows the student to go over, read it, and both of you sign it. That way, if you have a meeting with the parent, the student can't come back and say, no, because you can say, well, no, you got to read what I wrote, and you agreed to it, and you signed it.
But the elementary has that. I did that all the time when I was in the elementary.
I know, but they don't have it here in middle and high school, and this,
Yeah,
I know, and
this,
I don't understand why.
this goes more for middle and high school, because they don't have the tier offenses really in
No, but they
elementary.
have the discipline referrals.
Right.
And by the time you get to 4 demerits, you should have an office
officer
referral, which
referral.
should have a form that we can use.
Right.
Well, hopefully we've been able to kind of just come up, we've been able to brainstorm some things and got our thoughts on some things that we might want to change. So it's all up to just getting some of that stuff in writing. So some of that stuff, if y'all want to just shoot it to me in an email,
Yeah.
then I'll start typing it up. I've got notes from what we talked about, but just more things that you brainstorm throughout the next couple of weeks. So we can just present it to Ms. G and just see what she thinks about it. All you can do is just offer your suggestions, you know, whether she takes them or not. And at least she'll know what our concerns are.
Mhm. And that we have something to offer.
Right.
All right,